Hey, hey, hey. This is Cindy Gould, and welcome back to Create Your Victorious Life. And welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download that Zingo TV app on your respective app stores on your iOS or Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave us a stellar comment. The app is totally free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, on Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And today, oh my gosh, I am so excited. I know, right? To have my dear, precious friend, Crystal Raye. And we so affectionately call her Crystal Raye Gem of the Day. And I just let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a passionate advocate, oh my goodness, for the burn and visible difference communities, dedicated to empowering burn survivors and promoting resilience through her personal journey. As a flammable liquid burn survivor, she has transformed her pain into her purpose and using her experiences to uplift others that are facing similar experiences and challenges. She is a peer support volunteer, which is so cool. She's providing guidance, encouragement, and education and wisdom, also a listening ear to others that are in her situation, helping them to navigate through, like, especially the emotional sides of things and some of the other parts of it through after they've gone through such burn injuries. Now, she's also an aspiring author. I mean, it's just so great. Wait till you hear her story. Her upcoming book, The Burned, the Broken, and the Beautiful, A Memoir of Me, is going to be released. She'll tell you all about that. And she shares her story of trauma to triumph, which is exactly one of the reasons why I wanted her to be on here, so that she could share with you her own journey of how she found her beauty in her life, even through some of her darkest and frightening and just most traumatic moments. With her authentic voice and her unwavering commitment, she just shows up. And the thing that I love about Crystal, many things, but one of them is that she really just shows up. She's supportive. She gets up, she does her thing, and she's like, here I am. And so here she is without further ado. Welcome, 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 friend.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Bring me to tears.
Oh, well, I am so, so, so excited that you're here. I'm thrilled that you could carve out some time for us today. And, everybody that comes on the show, I always start with the same question, and so please tell us how you have created such spectacular victory in your life and how you got here right now.
Thank you. So,
Mm.
as you mentioned in the introduction, I am an adult flammable liquid burn survivor. And a little bit, we won't stay lots on the how it happened, but a little bit about how it happened is I was abusing drugs and had a moment of weakness. And I was triggered by somebody who abused me for years as a child, and just all of the things, lots of thoughts coming flooding in. And I chose to attempt to end my life by pouring gas over myself and lighting myself on fire in front of my abuser. I am. I was given 5% chance to live after this incident, and I spent 5.5 months in the Seattle burn unit, and I had to relearn how to walk, talk, eat, bathe, all of it, and navigate life after such a traumatic injury. And I'm thankful to be here today after all of that. And I, struggled with my addiction for about 3 years. That happened 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I still struggled with my addiction after that incident. That wasn't quite my rock bottom. You would think that it would be, but it wasn't. um, I continued to struggle with my addiction for 3 years after that, and just accepting my injury, my mental health, just even doing all of the things that I needed to do for my own health and well-being.
Right.
And so after that, so I struggled for 3 years, and then I chose to I finally had enough. I was not taking care of myself in the way I needed to be, going to the doctor and going to physical therapy, and I was not I was still abusing my body. And so I chose to get on a plane and leave where I was and go to Oklahoma. So and that was 2 years ago. And
Wow.
since that day, I have been really focusing on my self-care
Mm.
and, um, my just what I needed to do and how I wanted to be after this injury, and really started to accept that I was no longer the Crystal that I was before the fire, and what am I gonna do with this now?
Right. Thank you for sharing all of that. I know that's a lot, right, for you to unpack. And I know that you tell and share your story on a variety of platforms and different things. And I'm sure that some days you probably roll through it, and other days you're like, ooh, that did happen, right? I did choose those things.
Absolutely.
First of all, congratulations, because if anybody can't do the math, it happened 5 years ago. 3 years ago, she decided to up and change her life, and she's been 2 years now, right?
2
Clean and
years.
sober. Yeah. So I celebrate that with you. That's huge. And I want to share, like, and when we do this, we never know what direction we're going in, right? And for those of you who are watching now or in the future, one of the things that I recognize in hearing your story again, and I've heard it a few times, right? I've gotten the privilege to share some time with you, but what I heard this time was different. Like you said that it took you 3 years to get clean, and there are some people that may judge that, like you said, that you think that would have been your bottom. Not necessarily, because I remember you sharing with me that you woke up mad, like, and because you intended for a different outcome, right? And
Right,
the fact that you woke up made you mad, right?
right,
And so it makes sense to me, because just because something like that happens doesn't mean it necessarily that shifts that tide yet. What I
right,
also hear in that is it gives you this spectacular lens of how you can really serve not just the people in your community, with the burn victim, and survivor, but in the other communities as well, because it, even the pain on the outside didn't extinguish the pain that was on the inside,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
So, again, I commend you. 2 years. Woo! That's so, I know, right? And then also for all the amazing things you've done since then, because even just this year alone, you've like knocked it out of the freaking park in 2024. Do you want to share some of those cool things? Like, cause just so for those of you to connect the dot. So she spent 5 months, was it Harborview in Seattle?
Harborview. Mhm.
Yeah, in Seattle. And now this is so cool. So go ahead and share wherever you want to start.
So I spent 5.5 months in the Seattle burn unit, and then I went home for 5 months to my mother's house. And then after that 5 months, I was still struggling with everything. I went back to Alaska, homeless and just couch surfing, not really knowing, having a direction. Still struggled, bouncing around, and I did that for about 3 years, and then I decided to change my life on October 29th, 2022. I decided I had had enough, left the rest of my all my bad habits in Alaska, got on a plane to go to Oklahoma. I had never been there before, and just decided on that flight I was going to change my life. I was manifesting a new life. I knew that this was a clean slate, and I had to do, like, this was my last chance.
Mm,
And I really didn't have a clue of what was gonna happen, but I knew I wasn't gonna use drugs anymore, and, that was scary. It was scary,
Mm.
and, I got to Oklahoma and cold turkeyed in my apartment and,
Oh,
with my significant other, Rivet, and he's been a longtime friend of mine. He, has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in my whole entire life, and to
mm,
have somebody that was willing to really walk beside me on this path through the
good.
unknown of what was gonna like, we knew I had some surgeries, we knew that I was struggling with my substance use, and that even though I was having a clean slate, I had a clean slate in other places. So, it was just like I we were really both nervous about the situation, but knowing that we had each other's backs and that was
Mm,
powerful.
wow.
And so that happened. I got last year, I had 4 surgeries and, didn't relapse. I actually ended up giving my painkillers back to the surgeons that gave them to me. They prescribed them to me just in case I needed them, and after
Right.
a week of staring at the bottle, I gave them back to the burn unit, and just was
Wow.
so that was a big step for me in my
Really?
recovery, knowing that I didn't want me to even embark down that path, and if I could get through it, I would be able to get through it. And so just to push myself, and I did. And, so fast forward to, like so that was 2023, pretty much. Just got all my surgeries done, and then, the end of 2023, back up a little bit, I started sharing my journey on my YouTube channel, and I started school online for affiliate marketing. The owners of my school gifted me a trip to Denver, in January of 2024, and that's how I started off the year. So in January 2024, I met the owner and founder of my school and a bunch of people that I had interacted with online and supported me, and that gave me my first little taste of public speaking. I got to get up in front of a crowd of 150 people and speak into
Wow.
existence my goal, and that was the first time I had ever done anything like that, and so I got up and I said, "I was given 5% chance to survive my injuries, and I am here to leave that in the past, and I plan to have a TED Talk talking about visible difference and mental health crisis." And it was just like having a captive audience that all they were just interested in what I had to say,
Right.
and it was so just I will never forget it. And I knew right then, like, I was on the right path. So that was January of this year, and I continued to share my story on my YouTube channel, and, I also met, Amos with the ENTV, and I was scared to interview with him and leaned into the uncomfort because I had, knew that
Mm,
this event with my school was coming up. They were both about the same time, and I shared my journey with Amos, and then I met you, and, um, just all of the little connections along the way have helped me to hone my public speaking skills over this year, and I also was able to fly to Hawaii to visit my youngest son and reconnect with him for the first time after getting sober, and that was a really, amazing experience of growth for both of us,
yes.
and, when I got home from Hawaii, I was notified was being, I was sponsored to go on, an adult burn survivors retreat to Breckenridge, Colorado. And so I was 10 one of 10 adult burn survivors chosen to go on this retreat
Wow.
for adaptive sports, and, we got to so we flew to Denver, they bused us to Breckenridge, and, we stayed at this beautiful lodge, and we got to go, like, rock climbing in the Rockies, and, kayaking, and we also did this ropes course. It was like 150 feet in the air in fall harnesses, and I was terrified to do that, but I actually volunteered to go on the ropes course first because I
Wow.
was so scared
Wow.
to do it. I just wanted to get it over with. But once I got up there, I was I was so comfortable. It's kind of scary that I was so comfortable up there. Like,
Wow. I
and
wonder what that means.
right,
Right?
I got up there in this harness and I just knew I was not going to fall out off the ropes course with this harness on. And plus, if anything were to happen, the trainers at the adaptive sports place that we were at, it's called the Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center. I knew that they had my back and that they had instructed us. And so also we were doing it with surgeons, burn surgeons and burn nurses. And so there's
You're in
10
good
burn
hands.
survivors and all of these like 10 volunteers that are burn surgeons and burn nurses. And if something were to happen, they could fix us up right there.
Yeah, you were in great hands. Well, you know
Right.
what's cool listening to you? I mean, I'm just like connecting dots. For instance, and you might think this is silly, but you spoke in front of 150 people. You were in the air 150 feet up.
Mm,
Like I'm like, huh. And then of course, you and I both know like my connections to um, Washington, to Seattle, to Oklahoma, and of course, everybody knows my connection to Hawaii. So I'm like, okay, this is so interesting to me. Plus other connections you and I have discovered that are just like mind blowing. So, and I see things like that as divine appointments, that when all those things add up, it's like, okay. So for me, I remember when we first were connected through, Amos, our dear friend, and of ENTV, and of soon to be of the Bump, which is a really cool program coming up, a cool thing. Yeah, I can't wait to share. But I think about that and what it takes for people like Eduardo, my producer, our producer who's watching, I'm sure remembers the first time I was on Paola's show. And I remember, and me having spoken in front of one person, 150, my biggest audience was 21,000. I mean, and yeah, right. And all of it, you still get a little bit of the butterflies and all that stuff. And and you triumphantly just, you're like, whatever. Like even this morning, even with issues with your computer, I'm like, it's okay. We'll wait. And just get it because I was so excited to share you here with our audience. By the way, Eric Stenlake of Energetic Life would love to have you on his TV show. He said, please tell her. So, Eric, if you're watching, I'm telling her out loud that right now in front of everybody.
thank you, Eric.
He's excited. I spoke with him actually right before I climbed on today.
Nice.
But one of the things you said, I think, is a really powerful thing. And I want to repeat it on purpose because a lot of the things that you've done since your experience, right? A lot of the things that you've done, you've had to lean into discomfort, lean into things that are uncomfortable. And I know a lot of you have probably seen all over socials or whatever when they say, just on the other side of that, what you're afraid of is, your blessing or your right. And my hallucination is that with the amount of times that you've leaned, even today, even part of it being exciting and part of it being like, this is freaking scary, right?
Right.
And you lean into that discomfort. First of all, I commend you for your courage because it takes courage to do that. And I celebrate you for that. But also, would you say, has your experiences been, even when you decided, I mean, who decides like, oh, I think I'll move to Oklahoma. Never been there. Let's go. Right. but when you do stuff like that, what was like that moment where you were like, I'm done, where it was either your bottom or it was time time to change? Did you like hear like God tell you, let's go, babe? Did you feel, I mean, what was it?
I often just feel like even though I don't know the path, that I'm being guided by my higher power. And so I have, when you ask that, the moment that really comes to mind is the moment I did light myself on fire. I heard my higher power say, Crystal, you don't get to choose. And now you're going to be in a lot more pain. And that's the last thing I remember before I woke up angry in the hospital. And
Mm,
so I knew after that moment, he saved me for a reason. And my higher power has a higher purpose for me. And
mm,
so even though it may be uncomfortable every day, it is not as uncomfortable as it was.
yeah,
And it's not going to be that uncomfortable anymore. And even though I'm still uncomfortable every day, like I just know that it's for a higher good.
right.
And I
Like,
just feel like
yeah.
wrapped in his love all the time. And
Mhm.
my angels, I think we've talked about this before a little bit, but for a while I didn't know that cadavers were used for my skin initially. And so had those people not donated their organs, I wouldn't be here today. And so I think about those people as my guardian angels, even though I don't know who they were. Like they're guiding me through every day.
Wow. So would you, are you okay sharing? Because my hallucination is 99% of the audience that's watching right now, unless other than maybe, your friends from all the different things that you belong to, don't know the process of what happens when somebody's burned, or like you said, they don't even probably have never really occurred to them where that skin comes from that helps you to heal. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
So I'm not the expert, but from my understanding, there are skin banks.
Oh,
Um, and like I don't know exactly how it works, but there are certain like burn centers all over the country, and they know that, they have to like type your blood, I believe. Yeah, I don't know exactly what all goes into it, but there's like spray on skin. They can like take your own cells now and grow 1 inch like little squares of skin in a lab and then
wow.
reattach them to you. There's so
Wow.
many different ways. There's like pig skin they use. They are also researching fish skin for burns.
Wow.
There's so much research, and I just know that because my family and my medical records said that they were cadaver grafts.
Okay. So, I have a nephew that moved back home to heaven a few years ago, and he was an organ donor. And I remember, and I think it was 25. And my mother told me that in the hospital, it was such. Of course, that was her grandson too. I mean, and so how devastating. But there was so much love and care and honor that went into and celebration of him, even by all the workers there. The hospital was so loving and kind, and grateful, and expressed it repeatedly too, because my mother had been in his room for a week. And um, because afterwards, when somebody passes and they're going to do that, they still have to keep their body going, until they're ready to harvest, is the verbiage I think they used. And so I'm grateful. So for those of you who have ever experienced that with a loved one, we thank you for that, because there's, people that are here alive that are because of that. So with your injuries, honey, were there things inside your body that were hurt, or was it your skin and
So thankfully, like I believe that I had a little bit of lung damage. I wasn't on fire for that long, but it was more mental and physical.
sure?
I've had 30 plus surgeries
Holy
and
sm-
countless hours of physical therapy.
mm,
Um, but yeah, thankfully, um, I am pretty healthy on the inside. I
yay.
have a autoimmune disease that I had before my burn injury that I have to watch,
Okay.
but it's doing really well since I started to take care of myself and not stop
Mm.
using substances and drinking every day. And I'm still working on being more mindful of the things that I put in my mouth as far as food, but it's all work in progress. And I,
100%.
as far as my labs and my doctors are concerned, I'm super so healthy that they're just astonished how healthy I am, and I am too.
Yay. Well, you know what? It's interesting what you're saying, because it doesn't matter what situation is. We all need to be mindful of what we put in our mouths and what we let and what we speak out of our mouths, right? Because
Absolutely.
all of that, as you know, have you ever heard or do you do any work of Dr. Joe Dispenza's?
I've heard of him. I haven't really got into a lot of his work yet.
Okay, I'm going to turn you on to Dr. Joe, and when we're done, to later today, because I just had like this amazing download. Like, oh my gosh! I mean, I could just imagine. And ironically, I think he's from Seattle too. So I
Yeah.
know, right? I just think that's just wild. So now, talk to me a little bit about like the Harborview thing and the Harvard thing, and just like the things you're doing. Share that with our audience, because those are like, and your book. I mean,
Yeah.
all those things, right?
So I decided a long time ago that I was going to write about my survival and recovery of my burn injury and navigating life after having such a traumatic injury, because my body doesn't work like it used to. So you asked about like my skin. My skin doesn't work like it used to. It doesn't sweat or stretch. And so I have to be mindful of the weather all the time. I get hot really easy and I get cold really easy, and I can't really regulate my temperature very well. So even if it's cold outside, like I could get overheated in my clothes and not be able to take them off fast enough. But that's one thing that I do have to be mindful of every day. But I started writing about my recovery and sharing it online in March of 2023. And I had asked how I could get more involved in being a peer supporter and helping other burn survivors. I had asked the burn unit in Seattle and contacted some of the research companies that I had seen like on the bottom of the pamphlets that were handed out to me when I left the burn unit. So I'm like,
Nice.
okay, they who made these? And like for one, it was like, who made these? I think that they need to take pictures of me doing these things, because I couldn't take the person seriously on the pamphlet because they weren't burned. Like this girl's face does not even like, how can it doesn't show how it's going to help me because this
Right,
girl doesn't have scars on her face. So that was
right.
my first thought. And I had contacted Harborview and they told me I needed to be interactive and start going to like the Phoenix Society peer support groups on my own and be active in that community first and to be sober for a year. So I started doing that and sharing my journey, and I finally was able to apply to become a peer supporter. It was last November, and I didn't actually get the training till June this year. But I have been interacting with Harborview and the American Burn Association, and it's called the Model Systems Knowledge Translation Center, MSKTE for short, and
Okay.
they translate the research information into knowledge for people to understand it in kind of lay terms. And
Mhm.
so I contacted them and told them I plan to, talk about my injury. And as I learned about it more, just having all these research back documents
Right.
that I could share that are already created and just make that connection. That was one of the big like aha moments for me.
Right.
And those little connections, like the American Burn Association and the MSKTC at Harborview, have allowed me to make connections with Harvard. And in March, I was part of the Harvard Climb Study, and me and 10 other burn survivors were in a 6-week class to learn how to treat our burn as a chronic condition. And
Oh, yeah.
it's so the CLIMB study stands for Chronic Life Impact Management of Burns.
Wow, that's cool.
And yeah, and it was free. They actually sent me a laptop to you to do the class on, because I didn't have a laptop at the time that would work. And they lended me a laptop. They sent it to me and everything, and sent
Wow.
me the textbooks, and it was all free to attend. And
Wow.
it was 6 weeks. And it was so, I made some great connections in that class. And I actually attended the burn retreat with one of the girls I was in the class with as well. So
Wow.
making lifelong friendships online and actually getting to meet them in person was awesome.
That's huge. You know what's so neat is like again, because I always it isn't, I don't even know that I actually look for the dots to connect. It's like they light up. Like when you're speaking, again, there's the number 10. You had 10 people that went to the event that you went to in Breckenridge. Now there's 10 with this. And I want to just take a second to look at the fact that all these amazing, out of all the people that they could have chosen on the planet to do this, you were chosen even for the Harborview thing. I mean, and yes, you earned it, and yes, you put yourself out there, but other people did too, right? And you were
Right.
chosen. You were chosen for this Harvard thing, to the point that they sent you. I mean, Harvard sent you a laptop. We know that's not a schleppy laptop either that you got, right? And they sent you the textbooks and everything. You were chosen for that. In addition to that, you were chosen for Breckenridge. And I use that word chosen on purpose, because knowing a little bit of your history, and I know, even with abandonment issues, not feeling chosen, not necessarily feeling loved, and you're being mirrored to you, because what happened, Crystal, sweetie, you chose yourself. And then all of a sudden, the world started choosing you.
Mhm.
Like, look at that, right? In the community that you're in, that you are now the poster child for somebody who's healing, and you're healing also, even though we see the exterior, right? 33 surgeries later and the whole shebang, right? We see all that, but you're really healing from the inside out.
Right.
And right? Because there were reasons why you made the choices you made. And some people don't understand. Another weird um, synergy that you and I have is, as you know, if I don't know if you remember me sharing, when I was a young girl in California, um, I was in a singing group that called the Songsmiths, and it was just this amazing group that we got to tour all over the place, and all girls. It was so much fun. There was this beautiful girl in the group, and she was 16. She was just and a neat, lovey-dove girl. And I was a lot younger. I was closer to her sister's age. I think it was like 9 or something. Um, and she lived in like Pacific Palisades. For those of you from California, that's a beautiful neighborhood, and came from an awesome family. We all went to the same church, not the same ward, but the same church at the time. And I think they were having a yard sale in her neighborhood, and nobody really, I don't think anybody, and especially back then, knew a lot about depression or any of those things. And this young teenager, she poured gasoline on herself and lit herself on fire, and it did take her life. And I remember hearing your story, And it was wild because the song California Dreamin' was a song she loved and I used to hear it. The first time I heard your story and met you, that song came on the radio. That song's so freaking old. It doesn't. And it was like, right, right. And it was like this, almost like a full circle for me, and I didn't realize how much that had affected me as a young girl. I didn't realize that until meeting you and then celebrating you and getting so like, oh, she does so many things. And so there's something else that to celebrate is, you mentioned your boy that's in Hawaii and you have another son that we've had some great news with, right?
So, yes, I'm gonna get all choked up. I've had so right now I am sitting in my Airbnb in the Pacific Northwest because I chose to. I wanted to spend Thanksgiving with my children as like and my family, and this show, being on this show, was a great excuse to make that happen.
Yeah.
And to really connect with you in person
Mhm.
and with my children after being sober for 2 years. I was able to go see my youngest son in Hawaii, which was great. And I talked to him about coming here. And when I talked to him about coming here, he goes, well, can I stay at the Airbnb too? And he's coming tomorrow, but we're all here to be, for the first time as a family after a sober accident, to be really just connect and have a meal together and just a couple days together. And my oldest son lives here and he made the time to go out to dinner with me yesterday at one of my favorite restaurants here. And then he came over yesterday and we made his favorite meal here and it turned
Mm.
out great. And we just had a couple wonderful evenings with dinner and just the two of us. And we have not had that in about 10 years. And
Wow,
so we were kind of talking about it last night. And it's been about 10 years since we've spent
wow.
any time together, and definitely none since my injury. Like I really didn't have the capacity to see how much it hurt them when it first happened, and me being angry about still being alive hurt them even more. And so
Sure.
I had to really take some self-reflection and forgive myself for some of that stuff and ask for forgiveness from them and
Mm.
apologize and be mindful of that apology. Just saying, I know this may have hurt you and I apologize. And I know sorry doesn't make it go away or make it okay, but I want you to know I acknowledge that this was probably painful. Very painful. Not probably. It was very painful.
I'm so proud of you. I mean, that's big stuff. But, and people don't realize like you can judge all you want, I mean, and people can say, "Oh my gosh," or like I know people that, have had their children, placed in foster care during certain seasons of their life while they were, making choices that in the and I'm not making excuses for any of them or for
I
anybody,
experienced that as
right?
well.
I know you did, honey,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to address that. But I wasn't talking about you either. I mean, I know other people, and yet look at the effort and the acknowledgement. Hey, you know what? I was in this situation, and I made these choices, and I'm so sorry because it pretty much bulldozed your life, and I'm here now. And can we heal? And to your boy's credit, they're both like, yes, please. And they took the time that they needed to heal. And that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect all the time. And things come up when we remember things, or remember conversations or whatever. But to your credit, and you as a daughter, because your mama's coming, and now you guys get to have generational healing, and you basically get to give our opponent the big block you, you know? While
Right.
you do that, because what you do when you do that is you my my belief, and just from my own experience, is you are literally changing the trajectory not only of your lives, but of your children's and your grandchildren and their children. Like, boop, and here comes Happy Crystal Ray, gem of the day, going in there and changing all of that again, girl.
Thank you.
Like, like seriously. And I'm excited for dinner. And I'm so
Me
excited. Oh my gosh, there's our precious friend Michael Cole. Yes, generational healing is so powerful. And it takes a lot to step into when you from where you were at, right? And look at you. Every day you get up and you basically kick butt. And I know
too.
that because I talk to you often, and I watch you. I follow you on the different places online. And so tell me now, because you've got like your group and you've got your book that you've got coming up and other things that you're doing. What is it that and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but other than all these other things that you're doing that are relational to your experience, what is it that you're really like passionate about? What fires you up, gets you excited?
Um, so much. Like I astonish myself with my physical, like the what I'm doing physically. I 2 years ago was not intentionally working out every day.
Mm,
And that in itself really makes me just love myself even more. And having new experiences that I never thought I would have. And just like having the conversations with my higher power that I do, like, what do you have in store for me today?
I love it.
And just knowing that it's going to be fun and exciting no matter what it is.
Yeah. You know what? And I'm saying this out loud because in fact, I remember calling my son a couple of times, Nicholas, because he's like amazing. And okay, son, tell me again, give me some workout or whatever, and I don't say it just like that. And he's so brilliant at all of that. And it does take intention. And he's like, Mom, you just got to do this, or you just got, but you got to do it. But the biggest thing is you've got to be consistent. And that's the thing, you and I know that whatever we put our attention on and our intention on, then it's like that's where our energy goes, and that's where we affect whatever it is that we're doing, right? And it is about consistency. So what are some of the things that you can share with us that help you to be consistent with learning and deepening your capacity to love yourself?
So, the biggest thing that comes to mind about being consistent is I live off my calendar now, and I do schedule my own self care time. And I pick days where, like, there's only certain days I schedule appointments outside my house,
Mm,
just because I have to be prepared and know that like I can get there and back without any incidences and be able to consistently do that. So I only like schedule doctor's appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I just really have certain days of the week that I do things like Wednesdays I write, and I have accountability partners and meetings online all the time too. But I really just live off my calendar, and I know that I have to bare minimum take an hour in the morning
mm,
to take care of myself, do my wound care, shower, meditate, journal, and just get ready before I can even interact with people. Because if I
right,
don't take that time for myself, I can't be my best self for others.
right. You know what? It's interesting because when you said wound care, I thought, I wonder what would happen in our world if everybody took an hour in the morning to take care of their wounds. If everybody, right? Whether they're
Right.
visible or not. If everybody took an hour in the morning to do their gratitude practice that I know that you do because we've talked about it, or to do the other things. Heck, if everybody took a shower every day, wonder what that would do for the world. Seriously, right? But
Right.
now, and I laugh about that, and instantly what came up in my heart is I remember a season not that long ago. Thank you, Michael Cole. Look at my sweet Michael. I
Yeah,
love
thank
Michael and
you.
Susan so much. And I love being on his podcast. And it's, one of the things though that I remember a season in my life a few years ago where it was like day 3, and I'm like, I don't think I've taken a bath this week yet, you know, but I was struggling, right? And what I did in my life was pretty visible, kind of like it is now, only I'm joyful and thrilled every single day. But there was a short season in my life where I'm like, and I tease about, and those of you who have watched the show before have heard me say, okay, well, there's a difference between taking a baby wipe bath and physically getting in the water, right? Not that I'm knocking the baby wipes, but but I remember that whole thing too, right? And when it comes in stages, like your healing comes in stages, right? Now, I know we only have a few minutes left in the show. Is there something that you want to share with our audience that's on your heart?
Well, I often share with you, my LMFAO, and we all know what LMFAO stands for inappropriately. The F in mine doesn't stand for that. But it does remind me to kind of have a little giggle. And so, I some through some of my personal development journey, also they have taught us to like be your first sale of the day in the mirror, and like have some good
Ooh,
mirror talk and pump yourself up in the mirror. And so my LMFAO, the L is to love yourself, and that for me is loving myself in the mirror. And
yes.
I tell myself every day in the mirror, it costs a lot of money to look this good. Let's go show them how we do it.
Ow!
And it's it's kind of cocky, but it's true. And so I that's my first sale of the day. And the M is to make my bed and massage my skin, my scars.
Mm.
And the F is faith. Have faith that the universe is working in your favor and not against you. The
Ooh,
F
what a
is
great word swap.
for you. Yes.
Ooh,
And so the F is faith. Even faith the size of a mustard seed will move mountains. And I am living proof of this.
oh
And
my
the
God.
A is to acknowledge your accomplishments. Acknowledge if you loved on yourself in the mirror. Acknowledge if you did your wound care. Acknowledge if you walked around the bed and made it, got out of the bed. And I count that as physical therapy too. For a long time, that was the only thing I could do.
Oh,
And
great.
acknowledge those things.
Yeah.
And the O is oxygen. Breathe. Take
Thank
a
you.
few moments.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that, honey. We've only got like a minute. I want to thank everybody for showing up today and for being here, especially my precious friend Crystal. I do want to shout out Michael Cole and his podcast, Your Thoughts, Your Reality. Go check it out because he's phenomenal. And thank you for joining us. Crystal, honey, where can people find you? And the LMFAO, before you tell me that, everybody acknowledge and pay attention to how she reframed. It took a lot of money, right? Ooh, we got 1 minute. Shoot it, babes. Where can we find you?
So you can find all my social media links at linktree/CRH Media. And
Okay.
my YouTube, my Facebook, my TikTok, all of them are linked there.
Thank you so much. And you can find her under
Thank
Crystal
you.
Raye. Yes. And you can find me on the Victory Network and Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out, spanglishworld.ca, for all your news and programming. And again, thank you. I love you, Crystal. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it, and be all about it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Mhm.